Reporting, the agent for Anthony Davis has informed the New Orleans Pelicans that he has no intention of signing an extension and, as a matter of fact, has requested a trade. That news coming in this morning. Let's get to the architect of that news, or at least the purveyor of such information. It is our aforementioned ESPN NBA insider, Adrian Wojnarowski, joining us on SportsCenter AM. Woj, it's been long rumored, right? Like Anthony Davis, and he's not going to stay with the Pelicans. He wants to win, go to a winner. What more can you tell us about this news from his agent?
Randy, Rich Paul told me this morning that he's informed the Pelicans that Anthony Davis, their all-NBA forward, will not sign an extension in the offseason when he's eligible to. He can become a free agent in the summer of 2020, and his intention is to head into free agency. He wants to trade now, and Rich Paul tells me that the preferred destination is a place that allows him to compete on a championship level. And we are, within a couple weeks now, the February 7th trade deadline, and we'll know soon the reaction in New Orleans to this trade request. They had said all along in New Orleans they would not trade him during the season, but teams will line up immediately, beginning with the Lakers, the Celtics. The Knicks will be aggressive. There's not a team in the league that's not going to place a call to the Pelicans to try to get an Anthony Davis. This is a player who will change the landscape in the league when he is ultimately moved or leaves in free agency in 2020.
Eligible for a 5-year, $240 million extension from the Pelicans, and he's willing to walk away from that. So, Woj, the ties here between Rich Paul, his agent, and certainly the most famous client of Rich Paul, that would be LeBron James out on the West Coast. The ties there, it's really easy to draw those connections. Is it too soon to draw those connections between the Lakers and now Anthony Davis?
No, absolutely not. And certainly, Davis, Davis is a player who I think there are more than one team out there who believe they could sell him on re-signing. The Lakers have good young players. They certainly can offer future picks. Boston has an arsenal of assets unlike any team in the league, and that's first-round picks, that's young players. And Boston has a confidence that if they traded for Anthony Davis, that they could convince him to stay in free agency and re-sign. But right now, Paul has not referenced a particular team. He's left it open that he wants him to be traded, that Anthony Davis wants to be traded, essentially to a contender. But the Lakers will be very much in this. They're going to be aggressive. The plan had been in LA to go out, sign a big free agent player this summer, and then use their assets to make a trade for Anthony Davis. But LA, Boston, certainly all these teams will be more aggressive in the short term.
Again, February 7th is...
And that was Adrian Wojnarowski on ESPN talking about the Anthony Davis Woj bomb that was reported yesterday of him wanting out of New Orleans this season right now. Welcome into the show, guys. So we got a lot to talk about. It's Views from the Sideline, January 29th, 2019. I'm one of your hosts, Chris Pappas. Malik Hill to my right, Joey Tysick across the table. What's going on, guys?
So he's going to Phoenix, is what I was.
That's I think Phoenix or Atlanta.
Detroit.
I'm not even
top three were in there.
There's no way.
That's we're not even gonna entertain that. That's not even funny. But anyways,
Thon Maker.
I thought it was kind of.
He's
funny.
coming.
Thon Maker, and yeah, Thon Maker could be coming, but that's nor here nor there. You guys want to throw anything out there before we'll get into more of the Anthony Davis stuff later on in the show? But do you guys have any initial thoughts of how this was done from Anthony Davis's party?
It's smart. As a fan, I don't necessarily like it because it kind of somewhat pigeonholes the Pelicans into a situation that's tough for them. And we've seen it in the past with guys like Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And I'll talk about it more, but I just don't like how this all happens and that the players get so much of a say necessarily, I guess.
How they have so much power.
Right.
Malik, anything you want to add in?
I mean, it was coming sooner or later. The Pelicans, all the moves they've tried to make over the years, it never really has amounted up to anything. They had a surprise.
They should have kept Boogie.
They had a surprise upset playoff win last year against the Trailblazers, which was very positive. But yeah, like you said, they didn't trust the injury DeMarcus Cousins had, even though a lot of people said and noticed that with the injury he had, DeMarcus Cousins was never an explosive, super athletic player from the beginning. And knowing the technology that we have in the NBA today, it wasn't going to take forever for him to come back. So they got too scared.
But they did win that playoff series.
Risk.
They won the playoff series without him.
They did. But
and if anything, I would say
going ahead through a full season, they weren't going to just do exactly what they did in that playoff series.
Right, but I would say that the moves that they made this offseason, getting Alfred Payton and Julius Randle,
it looked like it would
have been pretty good. And I don't know if it's it's not like a straight replacement, obviously, but I think that it helped their depth, which is a big issue for that team.
I will say I think losing Rondo was a huge blow to this team.
I think that's
both
the bigger
on the
loss.
Court and chemistry and in the locker room. I think if Rondo's there, I'm not saying he stops it, but there's a possibility Davis doesn't make these demands until after the season.
I believe that was a bigger loss for the Pelicans in the offseason.
So we'll get into that a little bit more. We're going to jump into the Super Bowl, which is this Sunday. Malik's favorite, the New England Patriots, the team he's been saying is going to go and win this thing from the beginning. Even from the start of this playoff run, Malik has been a huge New England Patriots supporter.
Go back, listen to all the podcasts. I've been saying that.
Exactly.
My name is not Chris Pappas. It's Malik Hill.
It's Malik Hill.
Yeah. That's exactly what's been happening.
It's the Patriots versus the Los Angeles Rams in Atlanta. In essence, Boston, LA. I mean, what is this? In every single sport we have Boston, LA. It's kind of annoying.
Big markets.
Big markets. We saw that in the Saints game too. I mean, I'm not going to say anything, but Saints, Rams.
Where you play the game. No,
yeah. Honestly, that would be really cool.
Game.
That would be really cool because that's never been done before.
I don't think it'd be very cool.
I think
if it happened,
cool
it probably happened in the 20s or 30s where it could.
Can you imagine?
Hey guys, let's just play again. We don't have anything else to do.
Can you imagine the Rams just took all that time to celebrate that they're at the Super Bowl? They're going to the Super Bowl, and then you come in the next day and they're like, "Guys, we got to replay that game." I don't think it'd be very cool.
For me, it would be fun.
Even as a fan,
it's too much money involved, too many politics.
I'd feel bad either way.
So, guys, what's gonna decide the Super Bowl this year? What's the one key factor that is gonna have the most impact in this game?
Rob Gronkowski.
Rob Gronkowski, he's really looking good this year, guys.
You could have just said Gronk.
Yeah, I know, but you know.
So Rob Gronkowski is going to decide the Super Bowl.
Yes.
How so?
He's so hard to guard. And, you know, the front line of the Rams is their biggest thing. And not that the rest of their defense is bad by any means, but I think that anytime that he can get out and get in open field, he's just so hard to bring down and he's so hard to deal with. And we saw him have a couple of key plays at the end of that Chiefs game that got them to the game-winning touchdown. And it's just a dynamic that the Patriots have always used where they used to use like a lot of double tight end sets and stuff, but he's just a weapon that no other team has. And as long as he's healthy and he's playing to his normal level, I think that that's going to be a really big factor.
Malik, what about you? What's the one key in this game that's going to decide the Super Bowl?
I think the Patriots' defense is the biggest.
How ironic.
Game. Last game, they came out perfectly with a defensive scheme. They took Tyreek Hill out of the game. They made sure he was wrapped up. And for some reason, they didn't go to Travis Kelce. It seemed like, honestly, looking back, it seemed like Andy Reid wasn't ready for that for some reason. He should have known that he went to Travis Kelce too late, and them not having their star running back because of all that controversy, it kind of ended up biting them because even though what's the running back they have right now? Williams. I can't remember his first name. The Chiefs running back, 26.
Damian?
Yeah,
Is it Damian?
Damian Williams started playing really good in the second half, but they didn't really emphasize the run game. They tried to force a lot of stuff in the passing game. Sean McVay, I assume, is going to come with a much more diverse plan on offense. He's going to attack from the start. How that Patriots defense responds is going to be huge because if they get punched in the mouth from the start and the Rams jump out to 14-0, I don't know. I don't know how much firepower the Patriots have to just jump right back into it with the Rams, knowing the type of firepower the Rams have on defense.
So you guys both picked two New England aspects to be the X factors and the key factors of this game. If the Rams are to pull this thing out, what's the main reason the Rams win this game?
The running game.
Todd Gurley.
They control the pace of the game, and they just pound it to the Patriots defense, tire them out, and then just beat them that way.
So if you're Sean McVay, you're going run heavy in this one.
Yeah, and I think that's what they've done most of their season. They rely on their run game and a lot of their defense. They have solid wide receivers, but there's no like standout receiver for this team. Jared Goff is just a very good quarterback. They've got some solid receivers there, and they just focus on Todd Gurley, and now C.J. Anderson is a big part of that. So that's a really hard run game to stop. So I would assume that they would look to tire this New England defense because, as we've seen, New England hasn't had the greatest defense this season. So if they can wear them out early in the game and attack them later, then I think that's the way they go about it.
What about you, Malik? What's the key factor for LA?
I think it's Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh. Them two, if they get pressure on Tom Brady from the start and they knock him down and his passes start to get wobbly and his accuracy isn't as tight as it usually is, Aqib Talib is back there. You have two Pro Bowl cornerbacks back there. They're going to start picking off passes. If Suh and Donald keep up this extreme high level of play and they hit Tom Brady, it could get ugly fast. And that's what they need to do if they want to dominate.
Yeah, definitely. Get to Brady quickly. I mean, we saw throughout the playoffs, Brady's had so much time in the pocket, and that plays so much to his hand and so much to the Patriots' hand of winning these ball games. When Brady's got a couple seconds more than what he's used to, he's going to pick your defense apart. It doesn't matter how old he is. He still has the ability to pick a defense apart given the time.
Saints got up 13-0, and then Suh and Donald locked in.
Yeah. And it turned that whole game around. I mean, so did the officials, but it turned the whole game around. Tom Brady has said that there is zero chance that he retires. I don't believe that. I think if he wins this, he entertains the thought of riding off into the sunset. What do you guys think?
Did you see the interview?
No.
He did an interview with ESPN. He was so confident he's not going anywhere.
Tom?
I would have hoped, we talked about it last week, I would have hoped that maybe if he wins this, he maybe just retires, go out on a high note. But he said there's zero chance. He was very confident, and there was like no waver in his voice. And he said he plans to play till he's 45.
How old is he right now?
That's his goal. I think he's 41. His goal is 45 because nobody has like played that long to the level that he has. And he says he still feels good, and he feels like he's become healthier over the last couple years as he's aged. And he said he's not going to throw in the towel until he feels like he can't do it anymore at such a high level that he does. And I believe him.
That's awesome. That's kind of crazy, though. Yeah, I hope he ends it well because I don't know if trying to play to 45, a lot of injuries happen as soon as you get up there in age. And the fact that he already hasn't had a major injury and he hasn't slowed down is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
He had one major injury when Matt Castle played that season.
But barring
he bounced back.
Barring an injury as well, I mean, if he doesn't get a major injury, it's for sure that he can make another Super Bowl in 4 years. Like, there's no
Oh,
doubt
yeah.
about it.
Yeah, I agree.
He's been there 9 times. 9 times.
As long as there are people doubting Tom Brady,
I think
he's gonna find a way. As long there will always be people doubting. The older he gets, people will keep doubting him more, and that's just gonna fuel him even more as he keeps.
they
continues
compared
to
it
go on.
to any of the other. He has more Super Bowl appearances than like Roethlisberger and somebody else combined, and it's just insane.
Do you guys have anything else you want to talk about to dissect before we move on?
I don't have a favorite in this game, and that's kind of disappointing. Usually in the Super Bowl, I want one team to win. And
yeah,
I
I've
have
seen
like
you root
more of
for.
a favorite. But like I said before, this was the one matchup that I didn't want to see. So I don't know.
Yeah, I
don't
don't have a
like
dog.
I don't like the New England run, like, the dominance. I'm a little tired of it. And the Rams, I don't know. I just don't like them.
I don't like the Rams because it's LA.
Yeah, that might be it.
That's my personal thing.
I
So-
think-
Honestly, I probably lean towards New England a little bit just because the Brady legacy. But honestly, I don't care at all.
Right.
I think New England's offensive line, if they continue to play at the level they've been playing at throughout these playoffs, I think you consider giving an offensive line Super Bowl MVP. I'm not kidding.
That
at
would be
all.
really cool. I would be 100% cool
Literally,
with that.
Tom Brady hasn't taken a sack in the postseason.
That's
Mhm.
insane.
They do that almost every year. It's insane.
I could see Brady getting the MVP trophy and then be like, "This is for my O line," and just kind of like hand it off to them. That'd
Yeah.
be a really cool thing.
Exactly. Also, watch this past episode of Detail by Peyton Manning, where he dissects Tom Brady and that offensive line. He talks about exactly what they're doing, their communication between them and Brady. It's impressive and insane.
Yeah.
Honestly, you should watch it.
Joey, it's about that time. All of the views from the sideline listeners.
What time are we talking about?
I'm not sure
Was it like
at all.
2:30?
They
Oh,
need
boy.
the
We gotta
Tyson
move
hot
on.
take. Who is your Super Bowl winner? And I need the score.
This can't be a take that's too hot because it's just
Oh, it's
Yeah.
hot.
It's only 2 teams.
yeah. Maybe the score could be a hot take.
It could be.
I think it's gonna be.
Pats by 50.
I just have
That's a hot take.
a bad feeling it's gonna be New England.
50.
I'm just gonna stick to sevens. 35-21.
Who's winning?
New England.
Malik?
New England wins it 28-24.
Isn't that crazy though? Like, even me, I didn't think the Patriots were gonna be this good, and nobody really talked about them. And then all of a sudden they're in the Super Bowl, and everybody's like, "Yeah, they can win. They're probably the favorites to win."
It's because everybody's been listening to
It's
me.
just crazy that like once they get there, they're locked in, and you know it.
Well,
Postseason Brady.
when you turn into a different team and you start playing like this,
flip the switch.
Yeah.
I'm taking New England 45-28.
What kind of numbers is Tom Brady putting up with that 45? Give me numbers. Give me over 400 passing yards. What's the numbers?
340, 330.
343. You don't want to touch 4?
I don't want to
You
touch 4.
afraid?
I don't want to touch 4.
You not feeling dangerous this week, Chris? Like Baker Mayfield, you didn't wake up feeling dangerous?
Watch him throw under. I'm feeling he's gonna throw under 300, and the like Sony Michel or somebody is gonna go off. It's just gonna be something weird
know
like
what?
that.
The New England running game,
But those passes will be key plays.
the New England running game is such a revolving door. It's insane how impactful they are.
And they always
Why
have
are they
three
so
of them.
why are
There's-
why are they always so impactful? It doesn't matter what 3 running backs they use. They always use 2 or 3, and they're always names you never hear about until that year, and then they always make big plays. Why is that? Is it just Belichick? Do we just chalk it up to Belichick and Brady and how they run that team?
They just know talent, and they got the right plays for it.
Malik, you got nothing to add to the? I want Malik to at least give me some insight
All I have
here.
to say is Danny Woodhead,
Running backs are key.
5'7", 175 pounds, productive for the New England Patriots.
Mhm.
That man was a D3 running back.
Rex Burkhead.
Rex Burkhead, who was extremely productive at Nebraska and like a 3rd-round pick. But Rex Burkhead, who hasn't done anything over the past 4 or 5 years, productive.
Yep.
It's just how it goes.
Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis. You guys remember that one?
Didn't like him. Lawrence Maroney didn't like him.
They all worked out
I didn't like any of them.
in their own ways.
It's crazy. All right. Well, that'll do it for our Super Bowl coverage. We'll recap the game next week. Next week, Thursday, is the NBA trade deadline, February 7th. We'll be on the air Tuesday. We'll do our trade deadline special, talk about players the Pistons could maybe keep an eye for, all the movement going on around the league, players to watch on that day, because it could be a really active trade deadline. It sounds like there's more sellers as we creep up to the deadline and less buyers, which can make for an active market. Plus, with AD on the market now, Mike Conley, Marc Gasol, a bunch of names out there. It should be really interesting to watch. So stay tuned for that next week. But jumping back into it, we're going to jump into college hoops. Start with Michigan. They had a crazy win over Minnesota where they probably should have lost that game. They won 59-57. Charles Matthews hits the buzzer beater. Crowd's going crazy. Everyone's happy. It's awesome. But let's talk about the real issues here. That game should not have been that close.
That game shouldn't have been that close. Coming off a loss, they were still sluggish. But it's the Big Ten grind. It is.
Aren't you supposed to draw it first?
I'm freestyling, bro.
Oh,
It's the Big Ten
Big
grind.
Ten grind. I was like, what is that sound coming from? Sorry for the technical difficulties. It's a Chris special, guys.
There will be
It's
games you're not
freestyling.
supposed to lose. There will be tough games that you don't mind losing, like them losing to Wisconsin. And there will be games that probably shouldn't be very close, but are close. Them getting that win was extremely huge because it translated right into Indiana. They got that win. It relieved pressure. They went into Indiana with all confidence, and they rolled.
Well,
Even though I'm still there's something missing from that team right now.
there wasn't.
And I don't know exactly what it is. I don't know if they peaked too early. I don't think that's what it is. But there's something missing. I can't put my finger on it. They're playing really good still, but
In the Minnesota game, they didn't have that killer mentality. They were up 52-41 with 8 minutes and 7 seconds left.
they have
They score five. What did they score? 7 points in the last 8
Yeah.
minutes.
I said this a few weeks ago. I was afraid because they always have stretches where they could just go completely cold. The guys with like Charles Matthews, he disappears for big spots. He'll start taking bad shots to try to get going. Iggy is a true freshman, so he can get too aggressive and start taking contested shots. Jordan Poole can also go cold. There are times where, all three of their most offensive, talented guys, they can start to fall off, and it can look bad at times. But luckily, they have guys that can start to pick up the slack, like John Teskey, who's playing very good basketball these past few weeks.
I
He's
need
playing
more from
really good.
Teskey.
What do you
I
mean?
need more.
By more, what do you mean?
Crashing the glass. They got outboarded 43-33 by Minnesota. That should not be happening.
It shouldn't.
Iggy led that team in rebounding with 11 boards that game. Iggy should not be leading the team in rebounding. It should be Teskey. I need more from Teskey. I need more. He needs to crash the glass. So I feel like he's kind of shying away a little bit as the season progresses. When Minnesota turns over the ball 16 times, you only turn it over 6 times, and you almost lose that game because of that rebounding disadvantage. That's not good.
They also have problems defending people in the paint, which is concerning.
Yeah.
Do you know what the offensive rebounding differential was, though? That's usually the more important one to look at.
I can find out.
Because Michigan shot pretty crappy in that game. Brazdeikis had another dud.
It was actually pretty close. Minnesota had 13 offensive boards. Michigan had 12.
Okay.
It was more the defensive glass. But, Joe, did you see anything from that game that stood out to you? Something Michigan did, something Michigan didn't do, or that Minnesota did?
I think it's mostly Michigan. Like I said, Brazdeikis had another rough game. He's starting to show some signs of being a freshman.
I mean, he was 4 of 18 from the floor. That's
Right. Coming off a 0-point game the game before.
He also just had a great game against Indiana.
I know, but that's I'm
We'll
just saying.
We'll get to that.
I'm just saying we're getting these ebbs and flows from him now where it's a little
was
bit
bound to
concerning,
happen,
where he's
yeah.
more consistent. My biggest concern is, Malik kind of touched on it, is I think Charles Matthews needs to be more aggressive earlier in the game, not when he's just in a lull and he just starts firing away and starts shooting a bad percentage. I
He
think
also travels at least once a game, which I don't understand.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me how you can travel every game and look confused every time it happens.
Because he thinks he puts the ball down first. he
Yeah.
makes that first step.
It's
Common
crazy.
misconception.
I
Yeah,
think
go on.
he needs to be that key guy on that team. He's the older guy. You got all these young guys around him, especially with Brazdakis having these ups and downs. I think when Iggy is struggling, that's when Charles Matthews needs to really step up and try to take over a little bit. Not entirely, because that's not how this team works. It's not how it operates. But I think he needs to kind of take control of the load if somebody is struggling. And maybe to that extent, Jordan Poole a little bit. We've seen him do it in a couple games this season as well. But those guys need to kind of pick each other up when one is struggling. It's going to hurt the team a lot if they all kind of go off of each other. And if they all struggle, then the team struggles. If they're all doing good, then the team's doing good. I think they need to have a better balance somehow between them. And I think that's like the biggest concern at the moment.
And kind of piggybacking off that, moving on to the Indiana game, where we're kind of harping on Brazdakis for struggling. Malik brought it up. He had a really good game against Indiana. Indiana's not a slouch of a team. Yes, they're not the best team, a better team than they have been in the past, but you can't sleep on them. Brazdakis had 20 points, 8 for 12 from the floor, which is huge, coming off a 4 for 18 game.
This is the first time I think this season I've seen them come out this strong. 17-0 start. They put their foot on their necks from the beginning.
And I think that had something to do with probably Beeline getting into him early on. Like, look, that Minnesota game should not have happened the way it happened. And Michigan kind of responded, which is good to see.
I feel like it's very similar to the Villanova game, where it's like, you guys got to prove something right here, right now. These guys beat us last year in the championship. Let's take it to them. They did that. Now, Indiana, that first game was close, and you wanted it to feel like they had a more comfortable lead. And this time, coming off of some rough games, it's like, okay, let's prove to them this time that we are the real deal and that we are a better team than them.
So I want to pose this to you guys. Was it Michigan's aggressiveness coming into this game and throughout the whole 40 minutes? Or did Indiana's shooting struggles play a big factor into this one?
Honestly, I think it's more of Indiana's defense. Right now, because they
only shot 15% from 3 and less than 30% from the floor during the entire game. They shot 27% from the floor. And I'm going to say Michigan's defense good, but it's not that good.
That was a big thing that contributed. But from the beginning, Indiana's defense was so soft. I mean, they were just letting Xavier Simpson, he would come off of a pick and roll, just take a dribble and just a wide open layup into the paint. Like, it open threes. Isaiah Liver got an open 3 in that 17-0 run to begin, and Indiana's coach was just losing it on the sidelines because obviously that was a thing that he didn't want to happen. In the scouting report, you don't leave Isaiah Livers open. He shoots over 45% from the 3. So, yeah, the mix of them being a really young team, not being prepared, them not playing really tough. They played really soft against Michigan, and that's something you can't do against a team of that quality, and it showed. It really showed.
Yeah, you never want to let a Beeline offense get going because they will just torch you.
So, Joe, you think it was the same thing? It was more so Michigan, or was it more so Indiana?
I don't know. I think I would like to think that it was more Michigan. Yes, Indiana struggled, but as we said, their defense is solid. It's not that good, but Michigan just came in on a mission, and they were ready to go, ready to play. Indiana wasn't, and I think that's credit to Michigan and Beeline preparing those guys after a couple tough games.
Let's talk about the other college hoops team in the state that's doing really well. Michigan State Spartans, they're still ranked number 6 in the country, even coming off a loss at Purdue, lose by 10, 73-63. Before that, they played at Iowa and had a big game, big win against a ranked Iowa team, number 19, 82-67. Joey, I'm going to hit you first. Does the Purdue loss impact your opinion of this team moving forward?
It did initially, but again, we go back to the Big Ten is crazy and it's hard to beat. But I don't know. The part that concerns me the most is like how terrible both teams shot in this game, and State still lost by 10. That's like the only slight concern is that like the shooting percentages for both teams were terrible. Nobody could really hit shots. It was almost unenjoyable to watch. But those are the grit and grind games of the Big Ten that to really prove yourselves, you want to come out on top of. and Michigan State didn't do that. Granted, Purdue's a solid team. They're just not playing that well this season, but they're on a run right now, and they still have some solid players. So I can't discredit Michigan State too much, but it does hurt a little.
Malik, as a Michigan fan, do you feel better about your team's chances going up against MSU, watching them this past week at Purdue, taking that loss by 10?
Honestly, I pretty much feel the same. I don't have like huge fear going into that matchup.
Yeah, you're a little cocky, aren't you?
But I honestly I don't know how to feel about this Michigan State team because at times they look almost unbeatable and they look like maybe the top team in the country. Like the way they ran Maryland off the court and how they handled that Iowa game. But then you come out against Purdue and you just come out completely flat and they just are running you off the court from the beginning. And even though they found a way to get back into the game, it was just too far gone. I think Tom Izzo has some things to figure out. And one of the main things is Nick Ward. He really hasn't gotten any better over the past 2 years. And I think Xavier Tillman is clearly at this point the best option at the 5 position.
I agree with you completely.
If Nick Ward isn't going on the offensive end, what does he offer you? He's
nothing.
He's not offering much. There were times he looked confused at times yesterday. When his game isn't going, he's a turnover machine.
When his game isn't going,
he gets so aggressive that he's like makes offensive fouls.
Yeah.
He doesn't play smart. Xavier Tillman is smart. He's tough. He rebounds. Even if his offensive game isn't going,
he still gives you something, and he doesn't.
He's gonna get offensive rebounds. He's gonna convert those layups.
And he won't kind of
low.
pout about messing up
Exactly.
on the offensive
He'll
side.
play hard at all times. You get consistency from Xavier Tillman. With Nick Ward, you do not know what you're gonna get at this point, and that really does not help this team right now. For them to be the best they can, Nick Ward has to get it together. And maybe him coming off the bench will help. I don't know. Tom Izzo's obviously he knows what he's doing. So
it'll be interesting to see.
We'll see how it goes from here.
But I think the biggest problem is that they need him on offense.
Exactly.
That's been my problem with Nick Ward from the beginning. I think he's a great talent. I think he has a lot of potential, especially for a college player. Like I said,
he's always had talent.
I don't know what his professional career could end up, but he's a great college player. The problem is his inconsistencies. When he's going and he's on a run, the team looks great. And everything works because that makes teams have to focus in on him.
Inside, outside game.
Yeah, exactly. But when he's like this, like he's been playing not so great. He doesn't crash the boards. That's not his game. He's not the big energy guy. He's just an offensive guy. And that's where it hurts, is that, like you said, he doesn't offer anything else. But he also means so much. It's really hard to deal with. And I don't know how they'd change it. I feel like for him, it's more of a mentality thing at this point.
I agree. I think it's a good point to bring up.
I think he needs to figure this out in his head, I think is where it's at.
Before we move on to some pro hoops, you guys have anything else you want to throw in there, regardless if it's Michigan State, or even across the board in college basketball? Anything you guys want to?
By tournament time, Aaron Henry will be an X factor for that team.
He's looking good.
The way that kid is playing, he's aggressive. The thing is, his jumper isn't there yet, but because he's so aggressive and athletic, he forces baskets. He's so aggressive that when he goes up, there's a good chance, 50-50, going up with a big man in the air, he's gonna convert that layup or get an and one because he has the will to get it past you. And when his jumper falls, he looks really good, and he's good. He has great defensive potential. That kid, by the time if they're starting him by the time the tournament comes, he can be maybe one of the biggest impacts on that team.
All right, let's move on. NBA trade deadline around the corner, like we said, next Thursday, February 7th. A lot of names being talked about. We're going to focus in on a lot of just the rumors going around the NBA right now. Let's start off in Memphis, where since I think the last time we were on the air, I don't think the news broke that Memphis was going to. No, it didn't. It was later that night that Memphis is open for trade offers, and their 2 franchise cornerstones that have been there for the longest time, Mike Conley and Marc Gasol. I want to start with this before we get into places they could land and best fits. Do you think Memphis moves one of those guys or both or neither?
I wouldn't be surprised if they moved both because they know when they have Gasol and Conley, they know their ceiling. They know how far they can go with Gasol and Conley, especially with this. This is one of the weakest rosters they've had in years, so they know this team isn't making a run. You might as well package them both. You go for some first round picks this year, maybe next year. Get a few more young, promising players. You have Jaren Jackson. You know what he is. You have some other young guys that can produce for you. You start building for the future right now.
Joey?
Yeah, I think they can move both. I mean,
Do you think they will move both?
I mean, obviously the offers have to be there, but I think
understand
offers are going to be.
but I need a Joey Tyson.
I think offers are going to be pouring in, and I think they're going to figure out a deal to be done because there's a lot of.
It'll probably be a 3-team.
There's going to be a lot of teams that need these guys, like two pivotal positions for a team that wants to go into the playoffs. Mike Conley is a great, he's like a classic point guard. You know, he controls the game. He's a great shooter. He's not super flashy, but he just gets the job done, and he can be a great leader for a team. And then Marc Gasol, one of the better defenders.
He's even more valuable now because he can hit the three consistently.
Right, he's a stretch five.
But his game has declined this year.
Right.
He's down to 15 points and almost 9 boards a game.
He is aging a little bit, and he's struggled, but
you still put that on a playoff team.
Right. You put him into a new system. And
then to kind of play devil's advocate when it comes to Mike Conley and you guys saying how there's going to be all these offers pouring in, I disagree on that because his contract is kind of toxic. 3 years at a supermax. At one point, he was the highest paid player in the NBA when he first signed that contract.
But there are going to be playoff, and we've seen it in the past where playoff teams are going to try to just get in, especially like an Eastern Conference.
What playoff team is going to make a trade for Mike Conley right now?
One that I could see, and I haven't looked deep into it on how the specifics, but you know, Indiana just lost Victor Oladipo.
That's his home team.
That Indiana, I think, is maybe the one team. Because they are still having a really good season, and they don't want it to be all for naught that Victor Oladipo's gone for the year. I could see them doubling down for Mike Conley, but that's one of the few teams.
Right.
Maybe Miami, but then again, Goran Dragic is just a little bit younger version. Actually, they might be the same age.
I would say Mike Conley's an upgrade.
Slight upgrade.
I'd love to see an Indiana move. I would have
liked to see Conley and Oladipo play at the same time.
Yeah, true. But I'm just saying, especially with Oladipo down now.
Now with the Pelicans looking like they're going to be in rebuild mode, I thought they were a team that might be interested in Mike Conley too. They have some point guard disparity because they like to play Drew Holiday at the 2. But now they're out of the picture when it comes to acquiring him. Is there any teams out west? Because you're talking about all these offers pouring in. To me, it sounds like it's Indiana, and that's about it.
Well, I'm thinking that there will be a lot of teams that go for it, but I don't know.
In terms of Marc Gasol, I think there will be some teams that are pouring in. But Mike Conley, yeah, I think
Marc Gasol's going to
just an Indiana thing. There's going to be huge interest from Marc Gasol.
I think Mike Conley will get a lot of offers. I just don't know if because of the contract, some of the pieces might not be enough for the Grizzlies to pull the trigger on it. Mm-hmm. But I think there would be a lot of teams that would be interested. Out west, the only thing I thought of too for this one is it would be a weird scenario, and it would be like a 3-team trade where Portland finally moves on from Damian Lillard. And I don't know exactly whereabouts all those would go, but I feel like that would maybe be the time if they wanted to try for it. But I don't think they will because their team's playing really good again, so it's hard to say. That team's a mystery as well.
I think another team to watch for Conley out west, the Utah Jazz. They want a slight upgrade over Ricky Rubio. They're kind of on the playoff borderline. They had a really good season last year. They had a really good second half. They probably want to do that same thing over again.
They do have some younger talent, too, that they could offer back.
Yeah. I couldn't see Marc Gasol, but I think Utah's an interesting team to watch. To me, the 3 teams to watch for Conley right now, you hit it with Indiana. I think they're number 1. I'll say Utah 2 because Rubio's getting up there in age, and Conley is a better player than Rubio. And if Utah's going to keep trying to contend, which they are with Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, and that whole crew, I think Mike Conley is definitely a player they would look at. And then I'll throw Detroit as 3 because they have the worst point guard rotation we've seen in maybe the last 5 years. It's embarrassing.
It's a problem when Ish Smith is your favorite point guard on a team.
Yeah, and he can't stay healthy for the life of him. But
what do you think it takes to get that done for Detroit?
I wouldn't want to do it.
Because I'm curious.
If I'm the Pistons, I wouldn't want to do it because you have 3 years left of that contract.
But what would you think would be the deal?
Let me do a little research here.
Because I
wouldn't
mind that deal. Only because the Pistons have already said, like, they're basically saying they're going to stay stuck. They're not going to rebuild.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So just go all in then. Deal with it for the
huge contracts.
Deal
Blake
with
and
it.
Mike.
I'd rather have John Wall for that contract.
Deal with it for the next 3 years, whatever.
I'd rather have John Wall for that money.
But I think it's going to be harder to get John Wall.
Not with his injury.
And I don't know.
All right, let's see here.
And then we go back to my idea of signing Carmelo.
We'll
Mike Conley, Carmelo, Blake Griffin, Andre Drummond.
Melo is not coming here.
Think about it.
All right, so Mike Conley comes to Detroit. He's making $30 million. We have 2 $30 million players. You gotta ship out Reggie. They don't want John Lure. There's no other vet. You gotta probably ship Luke Kennard. And I'll say Galloway for some more shooting. What do we got there? That's successful. Ship out Reggie, Galloway, Kennard, and you probably have to throw in a pick for Mike Conley. Plus 6 wins, Joe.
As long as it's a second round pick.
I think it has
6
to be
or 7 seed.
I think it has to be a first round pick. It's probably a protected top 10 pick, but
future first round.
That gets us to maybe fighting for a second round series.
To me, though,
what progress?
The most intriguing.
No, because our wing depth is still terrible.
No, it is. Yeah, it's rough. The most intriguing thing is a
Carmelo.
Dreams come true.
The most intriguing thing for me this deadline is Andre Drummond. I think the Pistons are quietly looking to trade him.
That would be great. I'd love it.
And I'm not saying, I honestly think Stefanski and Dwayne Casey have kind of had enough of Drummond. And they're quietly looking for a rim runner or a slight upgrade over Zaza. And then they can kind of spread the wealth over on the wings at the point guard position.
I still want a draft pick.
It's not going to happen, though. So
I want it.
Let's ship that
we
idea.
Need it.
Joe, for the sake of
we deserve it.
What else are we going to get?
Like the Lakers fans deserve Anthony Davis. We deserve a draft pick.
What is your proposed Andre Drummond trade?
Just a straight up Andre Drummond for Marcus Gasol. It works in the trade machine. It's just a straight up trade. For Memphis, they get a younger center who's still under contract. They get younger, Drummond's 25 years old. For the Pistons, they get a better fit next to Blake Griffin. Mark can spread the floor. He's a better defensive player than Dre. I know all the analytics and the
no, I agree with that.
But I think Marcus Gasol has more impact on the game defensively than Andre Drummond does.
But then the Pistons have another older player that's aging and declining.
But he's only under contract for 2 years. Dre's under for 3. So you get out of that deal essentially a year earlier than you would when you're already in lack of a better term. Just
maybe it could work.
I'm just saying
it's a possibility.
I don't know.
But yeah, I think Marcus Gasol for Andre Drummond's an interesting thing to keep an eye on. It could be a variation. I know Memphis really wants someone to take over that Chandler Parsons contract, 2 years at $48 million still left. If I'm Detroit, I'll take his contract. You better throw in a pick though, like Joey said.
That's
right?
what I've worked out those deals before.
2022 second round pick.
I've seen that stuff.
We have no after this year. We have 1 second round pick over the next 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's how bad Stan Van Gundy was with just handing.
That's why I said I want draft picks at this point. I don't care about getting players in return. I want draft picks. I want a full rebuild. But we've talked about that.
All right, let's move on a little bit to some other players. Joey wants to talk about Carmelo Anthony for some reason, guys. Why, Joe? What's up with Melo?
How about that standing ovation in New York?
Yeah, good for him, Melo. Yeah, Melo.
I just want to know why
them to that second round playoff.
I just want to know why the NBA has exiled this man.
Because he's a ball hog that doesn't play defense and loves the mid-range jump shot.
And he's better than
I don't think he's
60% of the other forwards.
I don't think
that
it's been exiled. He's clearly more talented than,
and he's clearly heading to the Lakers.
Like 75% of the forwards, but
there's no discussion here, guys.
Does he fit the game right now? And
It doesn't matter. He plays better
Listen,
with his unfit play
He
style.
doesn't want to play on a bad team, so it's on him too.
There's two destinations for Melo.
If he wanted to play, he could have just stayed in Chicago.
No, Chicago doesn't want him. They're trying to tank.
Why didn't he stay in Atlanta?
Yeah, they should have wanted him.
Him
But
and Trae Young, that would have been exciting.
there's two places for
You
Melo.
can't have two ball hogs on the same team, though.
But Trae's the point guard.
I'm just saying.
Point guard. I'm just joking.
He's better than Luka. A couple years. Wait for it.
Oh boy.
He said it. You didn't
Clip
see
that.
boy.
Clip that.
No, he said that.
You just said that now.
You guys didn't say
Clip
that?
I did
You
see
guys
it,
didn't
but
hear
you
it?
said it too. Anyways, there's only two destinations for Melo. To me, it's like 90% chance he ends with the Lakers, 10% chance he ends in Miami. Those are the two.
Can we put a 5% on the Knicks? I wouldn't mind that. Or Denver.
1%.
Or Denver.
1% on both.
Him ending in Denver would be beautiful, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, I don't think he would go there either.
Never
He
mind.
just went to watch his boy play in New York. He just went to see D-Wade's last game in the Garden.
He's hanging out. He's having a
Melo to
good
the
time.
Heat. Huh? What?
I don't think so.
Nah.
So who needs an upgrade on the trade market? Who are some of your buyers, Joey?
Portland. They don't want to make the same mistake that they did last season, where they go into the playoffs looking good, one of the top seeds, and then just get run over by the Pelicans.
Portland never needs to make another Evan Turner deal,
They-
but that also.
Yeah, they seem to have a lot of young guys, and it's just not quite there. There's something weird about that Portland team. Like Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum are great.
But
Nurkic is great.
Everything else around it,
But it
just
just
doesn't come together.
they have a lot of like these really nice filler pieces, but it's not enough necessarily. Like they have Al-Farouq Aminu, Evan Turner's shown signs. Mo Harkless has never really turned into anything.
Jake Layman is all right.
Right. So they got a lot of these weird filler guys that have moments, but they never have like come to fruition. So I think they need to do something, and they still have those guys are still young, so maybe there's a team out there that would do something for it. I'm not sure exactly how they get something done. That's why I said it'd be really interesting if they just did a big swing and let go of Damian Lillard for like multiple pieces. I don't think they would do that kind of thing,
Yeah, they wouldn't do that.
but I'm just throwing it out there.
I was going to touch on this when we talked more Anthony Davis, but I'll bring it up now. Portland's one of my dark horse teams to put together a big offer for Anthony Davis.
Hmm.
They're a team that's just going to swing for the fences, hope they can land him, and just see if they can convince him to stay like Oklahoma City did with PG, like Toronto's trying to do with Kawhi. I think the Paul George staying in Oklahoma City gave these smaller market teams a little bit more confidence of swinging for the fences and making a play for these big-time players, even though they say, oh, I only want to go to L.A. or something
Right.
like that.
Honestly, I can't believe that, because if Portland doesn't swing for the fences, what are they going to do in the next few years? They're going to consistently stay around the 52,
Yeah, but
53 win
here's the
regular
thing.
season.
Well, here's the thing, Malik. When they stick around that 50-win regular season and they just keep making the playoffs, keep losing in the first round, they still are bringing in a lot of revenue because they
Yeah.
make the playoffs. Because they have more, 4 additional games for the first round guaranteed, brings in so much publicity and so much revenue. At the bottom line, the NBA is a business, regardless of how you want to look at it, entertainment-wise. These people are just trying to make money. So, like, when you're looking at these teams, like, why aren't they rebuilding? Why don't they tear it down? You're not going to win anything. That's why the Pistons want to make the playoffs, because they make so little money off that team right now. They have the lowest attendance in the NBA by far, percentage of people in seats and number of tickets sold. If they get to the 8th seed, that's a lot of money coming into Goris's pocket for a franchise that hasn't been paying off.
I just don't see how Portland can make a deal that's more enticing than what the Lakers or the Celtics would have.
It depends on what the Pelicans are looking for. If they still want to be somewhat competitive, Portland's definitely putting in CJ McCollum. They're definitely putting in Yusuf Nurkic, put in a pick, and throw in a young piece.
But then on the other end for Portland, do they think that Damian Lillard and Anthony Davis are enough to win an NBA championship?
I think that's something they swing. They try.
I don't think
and
you
see
can-
if they can get a piece.
I don't think you can actually even
I agree
think
with you,
that that's possible.
but I think you have a better possibility with Damian and Anthony Davis than you do with Damian and CJ and Yusuf.
I might disagree. I don't think their depth is enough. I thought the Pelicans' depth was better, and they're struggling. Now, it's not all Anthony Davis's fault. Obviously, he plays out of his mind every night. But the Trailblazers, I think, have even worse depth than the Pelicans do.
Let's talk about the Anthony Davis stuff because we only have about 10 minutes left in the show, and that's the biggest story of the week. So right now, Anthony Davis, he requested a trade. It's sounding like the Lakers are his top priority, according to his agent, Rich Paul, of Clutch Sports, which is also LeBron's childhood friend, which is also his business partner, which is also the agent for LeBron James. There's a lot of lines being connected here. LeBron had dinner with Anthony Davis in L.A. when they played in L.A. about a month ago, and all of a sudden this comes out. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes.
There's a lot of fans that are trying to tell the NBA to watch out for tampering.
And the New Orleans,
it's already happened.
The Pelicans, even in their statement, put out that the NBA needs to watch for tampering.
Right.
LeBron can tamper anywhere he wants.
Well,
he's the king.
Well, that's what the NBA is saying. The players can talk to players, and they have no relegation over that or regulation over that. But it's really tricky when LeBron is the most powerful entity in the NBA. He is the most powerful, regardless. He's more powerful than the commissioner. I'm going to say it.
Yeah.
And we've never seen a player
I don't know if anybody's going to disagree with you.
We've never seen a player have this much power in a professional sport. Even Jordan. I think LeBron has more power than Jordan did at the time.
Yeah. Influential, yes.
His other destinations that have been reported, New York is going to get heavy consideration, which I think is crazy, but maybe AD and Kyrie team up because I heard Kyrie.
Kristaps.
Kyrie, AD, Kristaps, that's a team.
That's a pretty good team.
Yeah. Boston, but they can't make a move until the offseason, so that's why a lot of people are saying New Orleans should wait until July. Do you guys have any dark horse teams to look for, or is it kind of those three?
No, I couldn't really think of anything, just because the Lakers and the Celtics have so many assets that I don't know how he doesn't go to one of those teams. I can see the Knicks, though. I can see that as an option. Maybe if we want to go for a hot take, Brooklyn, just because of the assets that they have.
Yeah, I put them down. They have all their picks now, which is crazy to say.
Exactly. So maybe with the way that they've been playing lately. But other than that, I don't know. I just don't think there's enough. Other teams just don't have the assets that those teams have.
Do you think this gets resolved before the deadline?
No.
Malik?
It's hard to say. I'm not 100% sure. But I honestly think it's Los Angeles and
LA or
else.
bust. Yeah.
And there was talk though where Anthony Davis had told Alvin Gentry that he was going to finish out this season if they needed to. Like if he doesn't get traded or something, that
of course he's got to finish. He's under contract.
Like
he could sit
still
out like
compete
Kawhi.
and everything.
He wouldn't do that. He wouldn't.
Yeah, he'd have to compete.
Well, there was talks too. I had heard people talking about, well, what if the Pelicans wanted to sit him down to make sure that he doesn't get injured by the time the offseason comes around. Those are just things that I've heard rumblings of. But
yeah, I don't know. It's a tricky situation. I think it gets done by the deadline. I'm gonna give a hot take, and I think he gets traded by the deadline.
So you think the Lakers are gonna?
I think
package Lonzo, Kuzma, Ingram, Zubac, and a pick. I think that's what it'll take. If the Lakers are willing to do that and Magic Johnson wants to do that, I think then it will be done.
And they're going to have to take back some bad contracts.
I just think that Magic is going to be a little hesitant. This is going to be his biggest move by far as his tenure goes, and it'll be a big decision. I feel like he might actually end up hesitating, and that will be his downfall. And then
Boston jumps in,
and then it makes it even crazier because then the Pelicans have much more.
That's why I think the Lakers have to make a deal now.
Yeah, I agree. If they don't
give them whatever they want.
If they don't do that deal of every big name, I don't think the Pelicans would even.
I agree with
look at it.
The Pelicans
if they came up and they're like, we're going to do Lonzo, a first round pick, Kuzma, and Zubac. If they don't include Ingram in there, I'm thinking the Pelicans just say no. Yeah. I think it has to be every one of those young guys.
Completely agree. And you said this is the biggest trade for Magic in his career in the front office. This is an NBA altering trade. Like that's how impactful this is. There's been people talking about how this is the biggest player on the trade market since Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It's that impactful on the landscape of the NBA. and how the NBA is going to be moving forward. They teams up again with another superstar. That's going to keep being a trend. He goes somewhere like New York and starts to build from scratch. That could start being a trend.
I almost think, too, if this gets done by the deadline and the Pelicans end up with all those assets, I think the Pelicans are actually going to be a really good team. I'm telling you.
Joe's a Pelicans fan.
In how many years? Right now?
20.
Like next year.
Stop.
They just need chemistry at that point.
Which isn't easy to do.
All right, we
You're
have
taking all them kids from LA and just put them.
I'm just saying, you pair them back up with Julius Randle.
Oh my God.
The baby Lakers are
Yeah,
finally
Yeah,
going to grow
it's
up.
the baby Lakers
The
playing in New
reunion.
Orleans. We have only a couple minutes left here, so I want to talk about the All-Star starters. Just get them out there. They were announced this past Thursday. The reserves get announced this Thursday, where Blake Griffin will be announced an All-Star. Shout out Blake.
What if he doesn't?
He will be 100%. There's 0% chance.
Just
he doesn't.
saying.
If he got snubbed,
If he gets snubbed,
I
I'll
think the
if he
whole
gets
next pod,
snubbed-
the whole next podcast.
No, if he-
we'd have to do an emergency podcast.
if he gets snubbed, I will burn my Blake Griffin jersey in studio.
Don't say that. Don't say
I
that.
will burn my Blake Griffin jersey in studio.
But that's not his fault, so why would you burn his
Exactly.
jersey?
Yeah, I'll do something.
yeah,
I'll do something. You guys can
Yeah.
make me do something. I don't care. But yeah, the All-Star starters are Giannis Antetokounmpo, LeBron James, and this is going by most votes. So number 1 was Giannis, and we'll go down. So it's Giannis Antetokounmpo, LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Joel Embiid, Paul George, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Kawhi Leonard, and the surprise to me, but I'm happy for him, Kemba Walker,
I'm so happy Kemba got
because
that.
he's getting the start in his home city. I think this really helps Michael Jordan and the whole Charlotte organization to really kind of cement Kemba as that corner piece, even though he's getting up there in age as their star player.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I feel happy for the guy, too.
And were you guys surprised by that too, the Kemba stuff?
I was more
I was
surprised
that
by
he got named a starter.
Anthony Davis being excluded. And, well, I'm not surprised, but I feel like LeBron shouldn't be a starter. There's no way that he's not going to be, but just because of his injury.
I think
Stop.
Nikola Jokic should be a starter, and I would
Over
be
who?
mad. Name the
LeBron.
other starters again.
LeBron.
Well,
LeBron is the weakest starter.
You gotta
out of
take
all.
but you gotta take it out of the Western Conference. So
The
if
problem,
you're
the
putting,
problem is too many numbers.
so would you take Paul
the-
George out?
The skill,
That'd probably be the guy you have to take
skill
out.
is too high.
Paul George is playing better than LeBron right now.
There's,
Is that your
there's-
hot take?
There's a minute left in the show,
that
and
your
I
hot
really
take?
don't want to get into this right now.
Nikola Jokic should be starting, but he just can't, which is extremely
He
disappointing.
should be
just
starting, but
can't.
he can't.
He can't. He should, but he can't.
Hey, you're our 5th, but you can't play. You just got to keep the bench warm.
You're our 5th,
It's a
but you're
weird
actually our
situation.
6th.
It's a weird situation.
Anything
The
else?
West
You guys,
is always too deep.
anything else you guys want to just bring up real quick? We got a minute left.
Trade deadline and all-star stuff is Steph Curry and Seth Curry going against each other in the three-point
And Dirk
contest.
Nowitzki in
And
the
Dirk.
3-point contest.
That's pretty exciting.
Luka's in the skills. The dunk contest.
Isn't
is
Trey Young in the skills too?
Yeah, Trey's in the
Have
skills.
they named who's in the dunk contest?
Miles Bridges is.
That's good.
John Collins, I believe,
That's
is.
good.
I can't remember the other two,
I
but
haven't looked yet.
Derek Jones Jr. is. But I want the big names, man.
You'll never get
I
it.
It's-
wanted
it's not
LeBron
gonna
and
happen.
Vince,
That's
man.
that's
It's not
over.
gonna happen.
That's over.
You wanted LeBron and Vince.
I want Vince right now. I will take Vince Carter
Oh,
right
yeah.
now.
I would watch it too.
Me too.
Me too.
would
It'll
watch
be
it
the
too.
highest rated dunk contest ever.
Easily.
Yeah.
Oh man. Oh man.
No, you're not gonna get big names in the dunk contest ever again.
They're
a bummer.
afraid. It's not worth it. Man, stop it.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
Sure.
Ridiculous.
Well, that's going to do it for our show this week.
Kobe.
Views from the Sideline, January 29th, 2019. Next week, Super Bowl recap, NBA trade deadline special. There's going to be a trade by the time we're back on the airwaves next week. I'm calling it.
I hope so.
We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
It would be hilarious if the Lakers got nothing.
I
No
could see
trades
it.
at all.
I could see it.
Just LeBron by himself.
All lonely.
And nothing in the offseason.